News reports of several incidences of arrests and raids have led to questions of the validity of these actions, especially one involving a real estate businessman whose arrest was questioned by his lawyers after it was quashed by the Court of Appeals.
A higher court says quashing warrant, walang probable cause.
But the Secretary of the Department of Justice stated that the warrant was still valid.
The TRO is effective immediately and continuing until further orders from the court.
In principle, a warrant of arrest does not have an expiration date. However, in reality, a warrant of arrest needs to be served within 10 days from the day of the filing of the complaint. Just recently, a group of individuals involved in a mauling incident with a local celebrity were issued with a warrant of arrest, preventing the said group from leaving the country to face the charges filed against them. In cases like these, how are arrest warrants issued and based on what evidence? Up to when are these warrants valid? Can an arrest be made even without a warrant? Good evening, you're watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News Channel. This show is about making the law work for you by giving you legal advice on topics that matter to you. I'm Attorney Rod Nepomuceno, and tonight we will discuss your rights on arrest warrants, and joining me to talk about this is Attorney Richie Abigail Pilares, who will be sitting in for Attorney Karen Jimeno. Good evening, Richie.
Good evening.
Thanks for joining us, and thank you for sitting in for Karen, who'll be gone for a couple of weeks.
Thank you for having me here. This is especially now that we have a very interesting topic.
We have a very interesting topic indeed. I'll give you the pleasure and honor to introduce our guest, Richie.
Thank you. To help us discuss what you need to know about arrest warrants are one of my mentors and a partner in Puno and Puno Law Offices, Attorney Vincent Patrick Bayhon, and Attorney DJ Jimenez, trial lawyer and professor at the University of Santo Tomas.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, attorneys. Attorney DJ, welcome back. And of course, Attorney Vince. Good evening. Good evening. The boss. The boss. The boss. All right, Richie. So we'll start off with, we'll have two topics in a way. We'll split it up na lang para it'll be easier. We're talking about essentially about warrants, and we'll start off with the warrant of arrest. Quickly, can you give us a definition? Maybe start with you, Attorney DJ. Can you define what an arrest warrant is, or a warrant of arrest?
In common sa layman, there is such thing as a warrant of arrest, and there is also this so-called order of arrest. But essentially, whether it's a warrant of arrest or an order of arrest, this is issued by a judge or a court, addressed to any law enforcer, in directing him to arrest a person indicted for a crime, to answer for the criminal offense.
Now, what is
yung order of arrest naman, in some cases, this is not premised on a probable cause, but for failure of the accused to attend to a hearing, minsan mag-i-issue ang court ng order of arrest.
So how do you normally initiate this? How do you initiate securing an arrest warrant, Attorney Vince?
Well, usually you file a case first with the Office of the City Prosecutor, and then after filing affidavits, counter affidavits, and reply affidavits, the prosecutor will issue a resolution whether or not he finds probable cause.
Okay.
And then after probable cause has been determined, he files an information with the court, and it's the court that issues the warrant of arrest.
Okay.
So, Attorney Vince, you mentioned about probable cause. So, what do you mean by probable cause for our viewers?
How do you define that?
Yes.
So there's a lot of subjectivity, I would imagine, involved.
I think in layman's terms, probable cause would mean maybe such set of facts and circumstances which would lead a prudent, they use the word prudent man, to believe that a crime has probably been committed by the accused. So it's more than just suspicion, but it's less than guilt,
Proof
beyond reasonable doubt. It's in between that.
Yes,
if I may also add, the concept of probable cause, there are two types of determination. One is the executive determination of probable cause, which is usually determined by a prosecutor, as explained by Pañero here. And the other one, for purposes of issuance of a warrant of arrest, the so-called judicial determination of probable cause.
Yes.
That's
Those
why,
are two different things, di ba?
Yes, these are two different things.
Yung prosecutor and the judge
yes,
issuing a warrant of
because
arrest.
under the Constitution, a judge must determine probable cause based on his or her independent judgment. The judge cannot just rely
On the prosecutor.
the findings of a prosecutor. And before, this is not so common. But now, when cases are filed in court, these are usually availed of by lawyers. They seek, they try to have a case dismissed by invoking judicial determination of probable cause. And in some cases, meron ako isang case na plunder, I had it dismissed even by the court. The ombudsman found the probable cause to indict my client for plunder, and later on, the court found that there is no probable cause for plunder, and it dismissed the case.
So we have to differentiate that, no? Yung
Yes.
parang the determination of the prosecutor in filing a case is different
Yes.
from the determination of
Probable cause by a
the
judge for purposes of
issuing.
a warrant of arrest.
So I would imagine what you're saying is that there's more required in issuing a warrant. Is that correct? It's correct to say no, that you need more, I guess, evidence or more probability, if you will, for the crime to have been committed, for a judge to issue a warrant of arrest.
We are always guided by judicial decisions by the Supreme Court. And in effect, ang sinasabi ng Supreme Court is that at the very least, if the trial proceeds, at least you can get some conviction. Because if in the end you will just waste the time of the court, maybe it's not prudent to, because the sad part is this concept of probable cause. In some cases, it has been abused.
Right.
Ang sinasabi nila, of course, when you speak of probable cause, whether or not a crime was probably committed and whether or not the respondents are probably guilty, they overstretch it sometimes.
All right.
So, what is the process when issuing an arrest warrant? Is there a process, Attorney Vince?
Well, the judge,
Maybe step by step.
Yes.
after the information is filed, the judge has to determine within 10 days if there is probable cause to issue the warrant.
After the complaint is filed, to 10 days. Yes, 10
Yes.
days.
So,
Okay.
as explained by Panyero, no, the judge can either dismiss it, no, or can issue a warrant of arrest if he finds that there is probable cause based on his personal evaluation. Or he can even ask the prosecutor to present additional evidence.
May extension ba yun? Is there an extension period of the 10 days?
Well, the rules of court provide that period of 10 days. No? Sometimes the judge will issue it immediately, and then there are lawyers who use that as basis to question the determination of probable cause and say that it wasn't done properly. Sometimes it would take a longer period, but generally it has to be done within 10 days. No? If, let's say, the prosecutor is required to present evidence to establish probable cause, the judge has to determine within 30 days after presentation if there really is probable cause, no, to issue the warrant of arrest.
Now, is it based purely on the complainant, or does he have to bring witnesses there? And if so, what should the witnesses do, and what should the complainant do in a proceeding like that?
Well, from my experience, usually when that happens, the fiscal will just rely on the evidence that's been presented, and will cite that probable cause exists because of what was stated in the affidavit, the evidence that was presented during the preliminary investigation. But I haven't encountered an instance where new evidence was presented, because essentially the information is supposed to be based on what was presented during the preliminary investigation.
Okay.
And then the presentation of the actual evidence, no, that will come during the trial.
trial.
Already. So it's more a preliminary,
Preliminary.
it's like a preliminary determination, really.
Okay.
So we've been talking about arrest warrants, but are there, because we usually hear about warrantless arrest, so can you please share
Yeah,
with us
oo.
what you know about warrantless
Yeah,
arrest?
that we were watching the case study
Yes.
earlier, di ba? And there are a lot of cases also now, warrantless arrests, supposedly now. Yeah, can you talk about that? One, what is warrantless arrest, and two, when is it possible to do a warrantless arrest, and by whom? Attorney DJ.
Well, by implication, when you talk of a warrantless arrest, this is not premised on a court order, no? But this is premised on certain circumstances allowed by the rules where an arrest without any warrant can be effected even by private individuals.
So exception to, no? This is
Ito
exception to the
yung
rule.
more of an exception.
Yeah.
What are these cases? So, number one, when crime is about to be committed, or when the crime is being committed, and thirdly, when the crime was just committed, or if the person arrested is a fugitive of justice. So you do not need any warrant of arrest to effect this arrest. Now, corollary to this, maybe it's also important to note Republic Act 7438, which provides certain rights of a person arrested without the benefit.
Can you expound on that? This law came in. Everyone was talking about this law in a particular case that was involving a media person, right?
Yes. So
this parang the invoking of his rights, di ba?
Yes. In this particular law kasi, we must remember that it is a constitutional right, no? Not to be arrested without any warrant. And there are very limited exceptions. Now, essentially, the Miranda rights must be observed in every arrest.
Now, for our viewers lang, Attorney DJ, what are the Miranda rights? People hear it, I mean, the lay people hear it during mga Law and Order or whatever, or mga TV shows, di ba? What are my Miranda rights? Can you expound what those Miranda rights are?
Miranda rights pertains to the right of a person to due process. When he is being arrested, at the very least, he should know why he is being arrested. He should know also his rights under the law, which is the right to remain silent, the right to be assisted by counsel of his own choice, among other things. So these Miranda rights, these have been mandated not just by the Constitution now, but even by this Republic Act. And failure to observe these Miranda rights would merit criminal prosecution, and that is what you mentioned earlier. This involves the members, the household members of a media practitioner who was arrested, I think, by police officers, and in turn, I think they filed charges of violation of 7438, saying that they were not apprised of the Miranda rights, essentially.
I see. Okay. Now, we'll still touch on the arrest warrants, no? But we have a couple of questions from our viewers, so would like to know. Medyo marami silang gusto itanong, no? So with the help of our guests, we'll answer those questions. First question is from Jeffrey. I would like to file an estafa case against former business partners who have gone into hiding. Can I still file this case against them even while they're hiding? What are the evidences I need to submit in order for an arrest warrant or a search warrant to be issued? Yan. So his main problem is yung gusto niya ma-arrest is they're hiding. So can he still file for?
Well, first things first. I think he should consult a lawyer whether or not he has a case. No? From the premise alone, business partners. I don't think if we base it alone on the concept of a business partner, there might not be a case for estafa, because estafa requires prior deceit. But if it's a business partner, niloko ka in the course of the partnership, pwedeng walang estafa yun. But assuming that based on the honest assessment of a lawyer, there is a ground to file charges, as long as it is not prescribed. So I believe he can do that. And if the other partner is hiding, that is to his advantage, because more likely it will not be answered. And sabi nga ni attorney kanina, once a case is filed before the prosecutor's office, criminal information will be filed and warrants of arrest will eventually be issued.
Okay. All right. Richie?
Our next question is from Juan. Can I leave the country if I have a warrant of arrest for estafa? What if the reason for my leaving is because I was offered a job abroad and this can help pay my debts, including legal representation? What can you say, Attorney Vince?
Well, if there's a warrant of arrest issued against you, that it doesn't necessarily mean that you're prevented from from leaving the country.
That seems to be the perception, though.
Yes,
right?
well,
Yeah.
because of the threat that
Yeah.
you would be arrested, no. You just take the risk going to the airport.
Right.
If, let's say, the private complainant is there and knows that you're leaving and wants to make sure that the police will arrest you,
Yeah.
you run that risk of being arrested.
Yeah, we heard that about one of those accused nga, in that mauling incident,
Yeah.
right? Recently.
If there's a whole departure order that's been issued, then that's the time that you can't leave.
can't leave,
Because it's an order from the court, the judge issued it, saying that you cannot be allowed to leave. And that order will be sent to the Bureau of Immigration, and then all of the Bureau of Immigration will be informed about that whole departure order.
So an arrest warrant in and by itself
No.
does not prevent you from leaving. All right.
Especially if there's no order issued by the court.
Correct. All right. All right, our next question. Vanessa sent us this question. My friend informed me last month that there was an arrest warrant issued against us since last year. She only knew about the warrant when she tried to renew her NBI clearance. But when I renewed my passport at the Philippine consulate 3 months ago, so I'm assuming she's abroad, it didn't register in the system. What should I do? The complaint or case against us was filed by the old clients of the company I used to work for. Do I have to go back to the Philippines to settle this matter? Can I send a representative instead? So she's abroad and she has a business partner, and she learned from her business partner who's here in the Philippines that there's a warrant of arrest against her. So she wants to know what she can do.
So first things first, she should first try to see what is the nature of the case, because not all cases merit the issuance of a warrant. There are such cases whereby a bail may not be necessary, in which case warrants of arrest need not be issued. Now, it is possible that what has been issued is merely an order of arrest because he failed to appear during his arraignment. In which case, if it is an offense that does not require the posting of a bail, then you can ask the court to lift the order of arrest by explaining why you failed to appear and try to justify why you failed to appear. And in some cases, under the present rules, if you learn of the filing of an information within 5 days, it is a matter of right to seek for a reinvestigation. In which case, courts will have no choice, because it's a matter of right, but to lift the order of arrest and conduct and order the prosecutor to conduct a reinvestigation. Ito yung parang you will go back to the level of a preliminary investigation, because you will say that I was not apprised of that case.
Right.
Now, if it is a case naman that where warrants of arrest is issued as a matter of course, especially if the penalty is 4 years and above, then bail is always a matter of right, unless, of course, it's a capital offense. So all she needs to do is to post bail, but she has to come to the Philippines. You can post bail in any court.
So
in any court, so that
first thing she needs to do is to find out what the case is now.
What the case is all about.
If the case is about serious illegal detention or any non-bailable offense,
Well,
it might be better off that she'll stay abroad.
Then you can probably seek a judicial determination of probable cause and convince the court that there's no serious illegal detention.
All right. Okay, Richie?
We still have plenty to discuss with our guests. Legal Help Desk will return, so stay tuned.
You're still watching the Legal Help Desk on the Solar News Channel with our guest, Attorney Vincent Patrick Bayhon, Senior Associate of the Puno and Puno Law Office, and Attorney DJ Jimenez, Professor of UST. Now, we're discussing now arrest warrants, and we're still touching on that. Later on, we'll be talking about search warrants naman. But let's stick with arrest warrants first, because there's so many questions involved, when it comes to warrants of arrest and warrantless arrests. And we were talking about it off air about inquest. For example, I'm a private citizen. And I see a crime being committed. I hope it's not the Martillo gang, but maybe I see someone, for example, being harassed, sexually molested, and I arrest someone in the act. Two questions here. One is that, am I mandated by law I guess with that Republic Act you mentioned earlier, I mean, mandated by law, Attorney Vince, to mention his rights, his constitutional rights, that he has the right to an attorney, and etc. And secondly, what happens after that? What happens after I bring him, let's say, when I arrest him and bring him to the police? First question is, am I legally required to read his rights? Because if I'm a lay person, I might not know those things.
Exactly. No. Generally, when you do a warrantless arrest and you're a lay person, meaning you're not a police officer or one authorized to arrest someone, you have to. It sounds redundant, no? But you have to inform the person that you're arresting him, no? And you're arresting him because
of an offense.
Of an offense, no? He has to know that.
An offense that he's doing or about to do or has just done, diba?
Yeah. And then the Miranda rights, that's not really something that's expected from an ordinary citizen, no? When you bring the person to, let's say, you're able to control him, accost him, and you're able to bring him to the police station, I would think that that's where the Miranda rights would be mentioned by the police officer to whom you've turned over the person. And then from there, what happens is, well, the police will conduct their investigation. No? They'll ask what happened, no? And then if there are witnesses that saw what happened, no? And then the next stage would be an inquest, no? An inquest proceeding where the person who's been arrested without a warrant, no? Will be presented to an inquest. You call it an inquest fiscal.
Prosecutor.
An inquest prosecutor.
Is that a special prosecutor, a particular kind of prosecutor, or any prosecutor?
Usually in every day, no, there's an inquest fiscal or prosecutor who's assigned for that day. So let's say if someone's arrested at night, no, and then the police detain him and then they have to bring him, no, there's usually one fiscal assigned every day who would actually do the inquest. No? That's usually at any time of the day. No?
Yes.
And that inquest prosecutor will determine if the matter is inquestable, meaning whether or not the warrantless arrest falls in any of the exceptions mentioned. Because this is the warrantless arrest is not something that you can use all the time. If, for example, money was embezzled, but that was embezzled a month ago. You just try to entrap the person who got the money and have some police officers assist you. Even if you arrest that person, you can no longer say that the crime has just been committed. So in which case, what the prosecutor will do is to order the release of the accused. So very crucial yung inquest proceedings because you have to have a lawyer to show that the subject matter is not inquestable so that the person arrested without a warrant can be released and a regular preliminary investigation will be conducted.
So, sir, you mentioned if it's an entrapment.
Yes.
But what if in the entrapment he committed another offense? Wouldn't that
of course
allow you to
that's
arrest
why
him?
You have to show that the causal connection between the arrest and the crime committed is within the same period. So if it happened a year ago and you just happen to see the guy now, you get him arrested, that is illegal.
Now there's a principle in law, yung continuing
infragrante
delicto. No?
Yes, if it's a continuing offense, but not all offenses are continuing.
What are the types of offenses that are continuing so that you basically have, I guess, the license to do one? I know rebellion is one. Rebellion is one.
That's the Enrile case where rebellion was determined as a continuing crime.
So meaning you can arrest him anytime without a warrant.
Correct. That's correct.
What are are there any other examples of crimes that are continuing? For example,
if it's
kidnapping. I think kidnapping. Let's say you still have the person with you and you're transporting him to different places and then
or carnapping maybe.
Or carnapping and then you see then you can actually arrest that person.
Likewise, you can also, if you are the person arrested, if you can show that the place of commission is not within the jurisdiction of the fiscal, that is also a ground to have the case dismissed.
Okay.
So you really have to seek legal assistance at the earliest opportunity, because once an information is filed in court, then it is all up to the court.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because we were talking about how to file or apply for an arrest warrant or doing a warrantless arrest. If you're on the other side, you're the one being arrested. What are the first things that you need to know, or what are the first things you need to do in order to protect your rights and to ensure that ideally you don't get arrested? I mean, everyone claims to be innocent, of course.
Well, of course, do not volunteer yourself to the police authorities. Oftentimes, there is the so-called invitation. You'll be invited. Do not go. Because if you're
not required to.
Yes, because you can always say, is there a search warrant? Or rather, is there a warrant of arrest issued against me? If there is none, then you can always decline. Otherwise, in some cases, it all starts with an invitation, then they detain you. But be mindful that under RA 7438, even this invitation is covered by this law, by the Miranda rights. So you can always invoke that even at that stage.
And actually, most people don't know that, for example, let's say a subpoena is issued by the NBI, requiring you to go to the office of the NBI and to answer questions.
Even those are covered.
Actually, you're not required or you're not mandated to appear. I mean, you won't be. They can't file a case against you for failing to appear before the NBI. Usually, if you're a layperson and you receive something from the NBI,
you get scared,
and then you just proceed there.
But really, you're not mandated.
You have the option not to.
You can actually ignore it, But of course, best thing to do is look for a lawyer.
No, I'm glad you brought that up, NBI, because usually, and we were talking about this before we went on air. A lot of lawyers, that seems to be their, I guess, their knee-jerk. Let's file through the NBI para we can have a warrantless arrest. Ideally, we'll arrest him on a Friday para over the weekend he'll be in NBI custody. Let's talk about that, the NBI warrantless arrest. What are the what are the legal repercussions there, and what are the processes, and is it really a kind of a legal weapon that's used by lawyers?
Well, whether you are with the NBI or any law enforcement agency, your right to effect a warrantless arrest is limited by the law. If the offense was committed long time ago, even the NBI cannot effect its own arrest. The arrest becomes illegal. So I think the bottom line here is education of the people.
All right, and very important. Yeah.
Very important.
And that's why we have legal HD. So
although in some cases, if you are on the other side naman, if you're the complainant, that could also expedite things.
Yeah.
When you go to the NBI or any law enforcement agency, they would issue an invitation to the respondent. Possibly you can settle. And of course, at the end of the day, if you achieve your objective, no problem.
Right.
To my mind, as long as there is no abuse of power, these are all available remedies which can work both ways.
But of course, if there was an arrest warrant and you ask the NBI to implement it, that's possible also?
Oh, yes,
yeah,
yes.
Right.
Because the warrant of arrest or order of arrest is addressed to any
law enforcement. Mabigat lang kasi ng NBI.
And you can effect the warrant of arrest at any time of the day. And very common yan. They would pretend to be LBC or DHL people, may invitation. So, sa akin siguro, if you are indicted of a particular offense, even at the prosecutor's level, the best thing to do is to monitor your case. Do not wait for a warrant of arrest to be issued, because bail is, as a rule, is a matter of right. So, if you finally discover that a case is filed in court, all you need to do is to post
bail,
bond, a bail, either a cash bond or a bail bond, and do not be afraid.
Yeah.
Because there is a process in court. At saka criminal cases, requires proof beyond reasonable doubt. Anybody can sue anyone criminally, but whether or not the case will prosper will depend on the evidence in court. So do not be afraid.
But sir, how can a person know if an arrest warrant was issued or filed against him or her?
Well, again, if a case is filed in the prosecutor's office, you have to monitor the status of that case. Do not wait for the court to issue a warrant because it will even send copies of the warrant to the NBI. You might even have problems with your clearances. So why wait for that? You have to preempt. No matter how small the case is, do not wait for the arrest warrant to be issued. Post bail if necessary, and then just settle the case.
Yeah. All right. Now there are instances when for example when you feel that well, for example, in situations where you have a copy of the arrest warrant, for example. I mean, maybe not original, just you have a copy of it. You're aware of a particular case, a particular person has an arrest warrant, and you have a copy of it, and I see him in the mall. Can I use that copy of the arrest warrant to do a
warrant?
Well, not
an arrest.
technically an arrest, because using that photocopy
citizen's
of
arrest.
citizen's arrest, using that copy that I have.
Well,
it just so happens I have the copy of the arrest warrant here. No, I mean hypothetically.
It magically appeared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hypothetically, if I have a copy of an arrest warrant and I see someone who is the subject of that arrest warrant, can I show it to him and effectively it's not a warrantless arrest? There is a warrant against him. Is that possible?
Well, a warrant of arrest is actually directed to a public officer, police officer, NBI, or person who has the authority to arrest. No? So, as a private citizen, you're not authorized to do to implement a warrant of arrest.
I see. Okay, perfect.
So, generally, well, the rule is a citizen can do an arrest, a citizen arrest, when it falls under the exceptions or the warrantless arrest.
I see.
But when there's an actual warrant,
then you just what you need to do is
if there's a policeman in the mall, maybe you can give it to him and ask him to arrest. No, but you yourself you can't do that.
All right, let's go back to answering our viewers' questions, starting with Carlo. How would you know if there's a pending arrest warrant filed against you? I have been threatened by a particular person that he will file a case against me and that any day I will be arrested. How can I verify this? Is there a website that you can check? Or
actually, you check with the... I have clients who... Well, let's say if your client has a lot of... If there are cases filed against him, no? And then it's part of the strategy that the other party would file criminal cases. Usually what you do is what we do is we write to the clerk of court, let's say the MTC, the RTC, if you know possible places where the other party would have filed a case, no? If it's Quezon City or Makati, you can write to the clerk of court, no? And then ask if there are any cases pending. Or
kind of have to figure out where it's possible that case was filed,
or you can start with the prosecutor's office. Check if a case has been filed against you and check the status of that case. So essentially where the crime was committed, because even though the other party is residing in Makati, if the transaction happened in Mindanao, then it cannot be filed in that place.
All right. Okay.
Next question is from Stephanie, who asked, I'm working abroad right now and I have learned that the case was filed against me with an arrest warrant. I planned on going home for vacation, but they also said that the complainants have put my name on the watch list. How can I resolve this? Will I be arrested immediately at the airport upon my arrival?
Okay, this is similar to the one that was leaving. No?
Yes.
This one, she suspects there's a... she's coming in, but she suspects there's a warrant of arrest. So, I guess it's possible, right?
Well, again, check first if there is a warrant of arrest. But if she's only on a watch list, that's not technically a warrant of arrest. Only a court, again, can issue a warrant of arrest. The DOJ cannot. They can only issue...
Actually, what they issue now is kasi that watch list, no, that's been abused before, and then I think they filed a case. I think they filed a case.
Appeals
there's an injunction and said that watch list is actually unconstitutional because it's only the judge who can prevent you from leaving. So I think what the DOJ did now, no, is they renamed it. And now they call it a lookout bulletin. A lookout bulletin. So
change of words, but
same animal.
Right.
Different color.
All right, from
that's how they go around.
All right, from Facebook naman, Yuri posted, anong implication sa isang prosecutor na kahit ang judgment niya ay being questioned by certain legal grounds, but still the arrest warrant is still issued? How long a warrant could take effect? I wanted to ask that. How long there's a warrant? There's a warrant of arrest, is that forever? I mean, there's a warrant.
Well, generally, the arresting officer must return the warrant within 10 days, explaining why the warrant was not served. And the court can, by itself, issue an alias warrant of arrest, in which case it has no limit anymore. And if beyond 6 months the accused could no longer be arrested, the court can order the archiving of the case. So the case will not be dismissed, it will only be archived. So the case remains.
So if I hide for more than 6 months, it's possible that it could be archived. And
yes, but the warrant is still there.
Yeah, the warrant is still there. It's just archived. Yeah. So, but let's go to the main question, though, of Yuri, is that the main question was, I guess he was trying to imply if the prosecutor issued it not on legal grounds. Can you question the issuance of a warrant of arrest?
If you're going to question the issuance of the warrant of arrest, usually what you do is you either quash it, no, or sometimes what we do is we file a motion for determination of probable cause and withdrawal or lifting of the warrant of arrest,
or holding in abeyance
the implementation. Some judges they allow that, they agree, depends on your grounds, your legal grounds. No? But if his objective is to question the finding of the fiscal, then he should file maybe a motion for reconsideration from the fiscal's resolution, or appeal it, directly with the Department of Justice.
The DOJ.
Yes. So actually, you can have a case where you have a pending appeal with the Department of Justice, and then you're also questioning the warrant of arrest.
I see.
Or
where are you
with the RTC.
With the RTC. All right.
And if I may also add, in other jurisdictions, I think in the US, if the arrest is found to be illegal, you can have the entire case dismissed. In our jurisdiction, unfortunately, if the arrest is found to be illegal, but there is still a basis to say that an offense was in fact committed, the illegality of the arrest does not necessarily prevent the prosecution of the case. You can still be prosecuted, unless, of course, the case is premised on a warrantless arrest. So in which case the entire case, I believe,
thrown out. Okay.
Okay, so Sonia sent us this question. I have filed a complaint against this person who owed me large sums of money. The judge issued an arrest warrant for my complaint and I have a copy of it. Recently, I was told of the whereabouts of the person who wronged me. Can I personally present the warrant of arrest so that this person knows that I have a complaint filed against him? Or should I wait for the authorities to do it themselves? It's related to the earlier question.
Yeah, it's related to what you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you have that warrant of arrest, no,
you have a copy of it. Yeah.
If you have a copy, you should have the police arrest the accused, or maybe the NBI.
And that police can use that copy. That copy of the warrant of arrest.
I had the client. I told my client, of course, we lawyers, we are not. We do not effect the arrest, so you have to help us locate the accused. One time, she saw the accused on the streets, and there's a police detachment on the side. She presented the warrant, and they had the person arrested. So, yes.
So conveniently,
yes, that could be done. And of course, you do not wait for the public officer to effect the arrest. If you are an interested party, you also have to do your part. And in some cases, you even have to accompany the police officer so that you can be assured that the person arrested will eventually be detained and booked for the offense.
All right. Now I wanted to ask, incidentally, there are differences in terms of issuing of arrest warrants relative to MTC, the Municipal Trial Court, and the RTC. Is there a difference? What the MTC and the RTC can issue?
Well, actually, it is a matter of jurisdiction over the offense. So, depending on what kind of criminal offense is filed. No? Although in the MTC, more often than not, especially if the offense does not involve imprisonment, if it's purely fine, or if it is an offense which imposes less than 4 years or is subject to the rule on summary procedure, bail may not be necessary, in which case issuance of a warrant of arrest will not be necessary, like cases involving violation of BP 22, which is now covered by the rule on summary procedure. So these bouncing checks cases, do not be afraid, because warrants of arrest will not be issued as long as you attend to the court processes regularly. But if you fail to appear in court despite notice, then an order of arrest will be issued. This is what I illustrated earlier. The difference between a warrant of arrest and an order of arrest. You are ordered arrested because you failed to appear in court.
I see. All right. That's very clear, Attorney DJ.
So we will be taking another short break, but before we do, we would like to thank our guests, Attorney Vincent Patrick Bayon, partner of the Puno and Puno Law Office, and Attorney DJ Jimenez, trial lawyer and professor at the University of Santo Tomas, for being with us and discussing your legal rights on arrest warrants. Legal Help Desk will return after these messages. Welcome back to Legal Help Desk on the Solar News Channel.
And Richie, so that was quite interesting, no? I mean, Attorney Vince, Attorney DJ, they're very detailed when it came to explaining the nuances when it comes to arrests and arrest warrants, because it's very important. It is a constitutional right of everyone to be spared from illegal arrests. So that's why the law is very strict when it comes to being able to serve that arrest warrant. But maybe to recap lang, an arrest warrant is, you normally file for that. No? You file for it in court. You normally file in the prosecutor's office, right? And the prosecutor will have how many days? 10 days, diba? Yeah.
Normally they will file the prosecutor will file a case in court, and then the court will issue a warrant of arrest.
Correct.
Upon its own finding of probable cause, the judge.
I stand corrected. The judge has 10 days to determine whether there's probable cause to issue that arrest warrant. So you file the information, the prosecutor makes a determination of whether there should be, there's a case. If there's a case, the prosecutor files it as a judge, and the judge will then determine if there's probable cause naman to issue, to warrant the issuance of an arrest warrant. No? So that normally takes 10 days, but the judge can also extend that if he feels or he or she feels that he needs additional evidence in order to justify the issuance of an arrest warrant. And then, of course, there are instances when there are exceptions to the rule regarding arrest warrants, and there are a couple.
These exceptions include if a crime has just been committed, will be committed, or is still being committed, or what they call in flagrante delicto.
Caught in the act.
Caught in the act, yes.
Yeah, so,
and then they also...
So you can arrest there, right, and then without any arrest warrant. But of course, if you're a peace officer, or you're an officer of the peace, or you're a police officer, it is important, a Republic Act requires it, that you mention the constitutional rights of the one being arrested. So the so-called Miranda rights, no? Yung the right to have a lawyer, and you have to inform him that he's being arrested, right? And so on and so forth. So that's all in the Miranda. But if you're a private person, though, there's no liability, right?
Yes. The civilian can still arrest someone who is actually committing a crime or caught in the act.
And then what happens there is that if you do a warrantless arrest based on a crime being committed, or it's about to be committed, or just been committed, you bring him to the police, and there will be an inquest proceeding to determine if your arrest was justified.
Yes.
All right. So those are the basic rules when it comes to arrest warrant. But the general rule, of course, is that you have to have an arrest warrant. Now, there are other questions that were brought in by our televiewers and some on Facebook and social media. Like, for example, can you leave the country if an arrest warrant was issued against you? Yes, you can. Technically, you can. I know there were some people who were asking that there was someone who was in this morning incident who was about to leave the country and was supposedly prevented. He wasn't really prevented, but he was being questioned. And I guess the last thing you want in the airport is to be questioned and everyone's looking at you. So I think what that person did is just he decided to not leave na lang. No? So, but if you have an arrest warrant against you, that doesn't necessarily prevent you from leaving. Of course, there's always that fear when you go to the airport, you might get caught, you might be arrested. So yun. So,
and it's also good that our guests informed us that they can go to the prosecutor's office or the clerk of court where the possible crime may have been committed, so that they can find out if a warrant of arrest has been issued against them.
Right. Oh, so you can check. No? Yes. And also, what's a common practice pala is people going to the NBI. No? Yes. And usually, in cases where they want either a warrantless arrest or they already have an arrest warrant, they normally tap the NBI to help them in implementing the arrest warrant or the arrest of a particular person. That's possible. It's legal because the NBI is a government entity that is empowered to serve these arrest warrants. No? So, but even then, the NBI has to be justified, meaning they can't just arrest anyone. It has to be qualified as a legal arrest. No? The conditions, all the conditions have to be there. No? Probable cause, and of course, required evidences to support that probable cause. All right? Okay. So anything else? Did we miss out anything? I think that we pretty much covered everything.
Yes,
no? What we failed to cover nga, yung search warrants, we'll probably cover that in another show.
Yes.
So, kasi the topic is very broad, arrest warrants in and by itself. So, we'll probably tackle the search warrants in another episode. So, in the meantime, we have some questions from viewers, di ba? Sorry. Richie?
On topics we have previously discussed and answered them. Roy sent this question on our Facebook page. What can I do for the father of my child to legally obligate him to support her? We were never married and he has another family.
Ayan. Okay, so I guess there's no, in this case, we're assuming that there's no issue when it comes to paternity. No? So he's really the father. So he has he has a son in a relationship wherein he wasn't married and he has another family already. So in that case, Richie, what can Royce do?
In that case, she can file a special proceeding. She can file a case for support.
Right, special proceeding.
Yes, and there's a law, the Violence Against Women and Children law, the VAUC, that she can use because she has rights under that said law, especially her child. Right,
okay, so two choices, no? Special proceeding for support for the child and another one for for VAUC, no? Violence Against Women and Children. Kasi they call it economic sabotage.
Economic abuse.
Economic abuse, no? Economic sabotage. Economic abuse. Sorry. All right. So we also have received some feedback from viewers such as Herben, who tweeted, watch the episode on the constitutionality of the RH law. As a public, we need enlightenment. Thank you for giving us the answers. Thank you very much, Herben.
Also from Twitter, City tweeted, I hope you can feature legal aid clinics all over Mindanao. # alternative lawyering. Yeah, that's an interesting topic.
That is definitely an interesting topic, and we commend all those people who are volunteering their time for mga legal aid like that. And thank you so much for all these lawyers who are providing their time, their talent, and their treasure to help less fortunate who really need legal help. So there you have it. All right.
So that is all the time we have for tonight. We would like to thank all of our viewers who sent us their questions and feedback via social media. I'm Attorney Richie Pelares.
And I'm Attorney Rod Nepomuceno. If you have any questions on our topic for tonight, you may share them with us on our Facebook and Twitter pages. If you've missed any episodes of Legal Help Desk, you can watch these on your mobile devices at your convenience. Download the Solar News mobile app on Google Play or Apple App Store. And join us again next week, Monday, as we discuss your legal rights. Good night and God bless.